Welcome back to The Scoop with Dr. Hockenberry. I'm Addison Chhay.
And I'm Kate Amon, and today we're going to be talking about some school closings with you, Dr. Hockenberry. So you made the decision to close Costin Elementary and Kurth Primary. What is the immediate change? Kind of talk me through that process.
Immediate as in today?
Well, just kind of what's
coming up in the future.
Yeah, coming up in the future.
Well, the board meeting Thursday night, immediately upon the board's vote, like actually during the meeting, we sent electronic letters we sent letters electronically home to all the affected parents that had students that were impacted by the decision. I think a total of 453. So immediately they were notified to kind of give them just a general. I didn't want them to start hearing through the grapevine.
Absolutely.
So I wanted them to have the news like instantaneously. So we did that. And then on Friday, we followed up with a hard copy to ensure that the electronic format, those that didn't land, which were only 11 out of 453, which was amazing, that they had a hard copy. And so last night and tonight, we had open houses for the 4 campuses that are choice options for the students who will be at a new school next year. And it was pretty well attended last night. It was better than we expected, and we'll have another showing tonight. And then, so the timeline's really quick. So tomorrow, parents will receive a survey to where they get to choose their school.
Okay.
For example, if you were scheduled to be a Costin student, next year you're going to have the choice between Brandon and Slack. So tomorrow they'll start that choice. And then for Kurth, it's Trout and Burley. So they'll get that information tomorrow. And I'm sure we're going to have some really quick feedback.
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody, but it'll be a quick response because they know it's coming.
Yes.
So they're prepared for it. And then the following day, we're sending out a survey to our teachers, not all staff on those campuses yet, but to our teachers to give them a voice in what campus or what grade level and who they might want to teach with next year. So that's the most immediate, which is this week. And so we'll assign students based on the responses and teachers as well, within the first 2 weeks back from spring break.
Dr. Hockenberry, since it's your first year as superintendent, did you kind of come into Lufkin ISD knowing that you wanted to move kids around schools, close schools? Just tell me, how did this idea of closing Costin and Kurth happen?
Well, you never go in wanting to close
of
schools. So absolutely not. There was no want to. The financial situation dictated the process and ultimately the decision. I mean, we have under-enrolled schools. You don't notice it at the high school, but at the lower grade, you certainly do.
So you could really see it in Costin and in Kurth where we were under-enrolled.
Yes, ma'am.
So were those the lowest?
They were the lowest
schools.
That's why we chose to close those?
Costin, yes. Kurth, close. But we also looked at more than just enrollment. We looked we had a demographic study done. So we looked at kind of what the economic development picture looks like into the future for Lufkin community. We also had a facilities committee that toured the schools and looked at the conditions of the buildings. And so all of that factored in. Costin was the most obvious choice, and then Kurth a close second. But it wasn't just enrollment, although that was the biggest driver.
Moving on with closing these schools, though, how are we working to alleviate the stress that the parents kind of are feeling with reacclimating their children to new schools, especially if they had maybe just one more year left at Kurth or Costin?
That's a wonderful question. I hope that the steps that we're taking now help alleviate that. The process was lengthy too, so I don't know if it was that much of a surprise when it actually happened.
Of course.
But I do think that if we provide information in a timely manner, we're responsive to their needs and questions, I think that alleviates as much as you can. So I do want to encourage, if some parents or students are feeling stressed and there are questions that are out there that we have not answered, please reach out to us so that we can help. One, we're going to answer your questions, and two, help you better understand, what's into the future and what's coming forward.
Yes, sir.
I think we need to be accessible, right?
Yeah.
Of
Be
course.
accessible and responsive.
Always.
Yeah. You have to answer these people's questions. I mean, if
Absolutely.
you're moving schools, they got to have an
Especially
answer.
with the change as big as this.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe possible K through 5 schools. Kind of tell me about that, Dr.
How
Hockenberry.
likely is that to happen? How soon? What's that going to look like across the district?
Well, through the process of our facilities committee, we looked at lots of things. It wasn't the purpose of the committee wasn't just to, our schools don't have very many kids in it, let's close them. It was, what do we want Lufkin ISD to look like into the future? And so part of it was to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. We had to shrink our footprint. So we're doing that now. But out of that work, we looked at our grade level alignments, our programs, and we also have submitted a parent survey back. I think it was in late November, early December, kind of talking about, certain designs of schools and what their feedback might be for that. So I think there's a lot of interest in a K-5
Really?
alignment. So
Could you give me some timeline, do you think, of like when this will even happen? Is it still just kind of brainstorming ideas?
Well, I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll gather information, but if you lay out, a potential timeline, then I would think the 26-27 school year, you would convert your elementary schools to K-5 models.
Would those schools be able to capacitate all those kids to be, like, could you take Brandon and make it a K through 5?
Yes.
You could?
There would be enough space.
Yes.
Okay.
You could do all of them that way.
Really?
Okay.
You could.
So what are you going to do with Kurth and Costa now?
Well, right now, Kurth is scheduled to become the district operations center.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So we would move administration and the DEC people to Kurth, and that's where they would be housed. We would put those two buildings up for sale to generate some funds for the school district, which we would love to have.
Absolutely.
Costin, we don't have a hard plan right now. We have some ideas that are being floated out there. However, today we launched our daycare survey for staff to see what interest was there, because we're going to put in a daycare next year because we want to be the district of choice for students and staff. And so our interest is, we knew it was going to be high, but when you see the numbers rolling in quickly, so, our daycare the plan is to have it at Kurth.
Okay.
But if our numbers are high enough, then we're going to have to rethink maybe some of how we relocate our adults.
Of course.
We'll see. We don't know for sure yet, but Costin, we don't have a hard plan for. Kurth, we do.
And then as you guys implement K through 5 schools in our elementary schools, would that eliminate primary schools, or what are we going to do?
Well,
with our primary campuses
you're converting your primary campuses. Your primary campuses would be K-5 too.
as well. Okay.
So every primary and every elementary would become a K-5.
Okay.
I want to pinpoint back on that daycare. Can you give us some more information on like how this topic started? Did you
How
come into
that
Lufkin
looked,
with this
yes.
idea?
I did come into Lufkin with this idea.
You
This
did.
was when I came into Lufkin. The first thing you want to look at is, the situation presented itself, but what you want to do is build a system for your staff and a compensation program for your staff that rivals, the bigger school districts that have much more money than we do, so that their options are simpler for them to choose, and the dynamic of the school, the whole school system, or going to school, being a student like yourselves, has changed, and so we need to give what we can for teachers to give them peace of mind. And I had experience in that in the prior district. We started from scratch, a daycare, and it was a phenomenal success. It far exceeded our expectations, and there was no reason to believe that we could not have that here. Plus, my first few weeks on the job, we had 8 or 9 teachers leaving, and
Yes.
we had more than that leaving, but 8 or 9 of those that were leaving because the school district had a daycare. And I'm like, all right, that's the sign I need. We're going to put one
implement that
in.
here.
So when will that be implemented?
Next school year.
Next school year.
So when we're in the stages right now of interviewing a coordinator to lead it, and we're putting it together. The survey went out today, and it'll be available for our staff when we start school next year.
That's some great
That's
information,
amazing.
but I kind of want to talk about the high school now. Rumor has it that A. Martin might be getting some new turf.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
It's not a rumor.
It's not a rumor.
It's not
Very
a rumor.
exciting.
It's official.
Ooh, that's exciting.
We
Tell me
are.
about it.
It's going to be new.
It's going to be
So,
new?
you know, another one of those things you walk into. I was at the spring game, and I was in the stands watching, and there, I think, had a lot of rain last spring. And
We did.
when I saw the field, I walked across it, and then I went and sat down. I was very worried about the safety and condition of the field. I mean, it was just, I don't know another way to put it, old and worn out.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And so I was like, great. Walking in, there was financial problems. The turf is shot, and it's not cheap. I'm like, how am I going to do this? We
Yeah.
got to have new
Yes.
turf. Well, thankfully, and I didn't know this existed, but what a great idea by the school board 11 years ago. The last time they replaced the turf, they knew it cost a lot of money, so they started taking $1 from every ticket sale for the last 11 years and putting it into an account.
Oh, wow.
So the money's there.
Yeah.
So now it's paid
So it's
for
like, we need
itself.
new turf. I don't know how we're going to pay for it. Well, I do. I didn't know, but someone told me, hey, we have this account. I said, oh, thank goodness. That's one less thing.
So when will the turf,
d-
when will they put it in?
The day after graduation, they'll tear up
Really?
the
Wow.
old. Yes.
They'll tear it up?
They're going to be mobilized here, and as soon as y'all walk off the stage, not as soon as you walk off the stage, but the next day, they'll start the work.
And they'll have it all ready for fall season.
4 to 6 weeks it'll take to
Really?
replace it.
So it'll be good for the summer.
That'll
Good
be
for summer workouts.
For summer workouts.
Starting out.
And the next season.
It'll be beautiful.
Oh, I bet
Oh,
it will.
absolutely.
Well, I know Addie and I will be jealous not being
Oh,
able
most
to be on that
definitely.
field, but
I do want to bring up a little bit of a hot topic. Senate Bill 2 and school choice. How do you think it'll affect us locally if it passes?
I think it's a little early to think how it will affect us locally, but I do think it will affect us. That's a real problem. I mean, it's a real problem. And we could spend a lot of time discussing that. I'm mindful, so I want to let me clarify some things so that people fully understand where I am on this. I'm a big believer in school choice.
Yes.
We already have it, okay? I think parents should be able to choose where they want their kids to go to school. They already can. You can go to private, you can go to charter, you can go to homeschool, you can go to Lufkin ISD, you can go to other public schools in the area. So it's already available. There's nothing holding you back from doing any of those things, right? You have the choice. And so through that choice movement, I believe the best choice is Lufkin.
Of course.
All right. Now, what we're going to do better is we're going to market ourselves better, and we're going to build a stronger system. So to me, the choice is easy. All right. Where I run into the problem is that you peel off $1 billion of taxpayer money, and then you provide vouchers to families to go to other places with no accountability. And I have a problem with that. Schools are held accountable, and I believe they should be. I believe people that use taxpayer dollars should be held accountable to those taxpayer dollars. The Senate version of that, there's zero accountability in that money. And I don't buy it. I'm not going to change my mind that they're doing this for kids that are trapped in bad public schools. I'm not saying there are schools that aren't bad, but they're not trapped.
Yes.
And money is not the way out. And to prop up that students with disabilities, you're going to get more money to go. Well, listen, these other schools don't have to accept everybody. All right? And I know private schools and they're great private schools. They're not prepared for that. And that money is not going to help them provide that service. And so I'm a big believer, and Senator Nichols had a great article. And if you haven't read it, he has summarized the whole voucher debate better than anybody can. If we're going to do this, and that's not his part. He was against it, right? I'm adamantly against it. But if you do it, then we need, apples to apples, right?
Yes.
If they're going to get money, then they need to be held by the same rules
Of
that we
course.
are.
yeah.
And there is no way to rationalize that in my mind. And anybody that tries to do that is misleading you. And those that are listening or listen later, this is not the answer. They've been defunding public schools for years. We haven't had an increase in our money since 2019. So if you're going to do it, and it appears it's going to happen, right? Well, first, fully fund your public schools where they should be. All right, and then if there is some room, which I can't believe there is, then build this thing out. But same accountability, same expectations. Don't just give away $1 billion without any accountability. It's not fair to schools. It's not fair to families. It's not fair to taxpayers. It's really not fair to anybody. It's a bad idea. It's a real bad idea.
Do you have anything, as we close out, anything you want to say to people listening about school closings, about possible K-5 schools?
Well, I do want to apologize for those that are negatively affected by it. It was, it's sad that a neighborhood school needs to close.
Yeah.
It's not an easy decision to recommend, but it didn't. It's, I do, and I'm apologizing to people because I know that they're hurting in very different ways, and it's not simple. Staff, kids, families. So I'm sorry that we had to go down this path and make this decision. But I promise you this, that the district as a whole will be much stronger. Already is.
Of course.
And we'll be a much better version of ourselves as we move beyond the closures. The K-5 alignment, if we get to that point and we end up adopting a K-5 alignment, there's a lot of benefits to that.
Yes,
One,
definitely.
children are going to be on campus from kindergarten to fifth grade. That's 6 years of investment from students and families on a single campus. And it will allow us to have more coordination amongst our teachers, building a strong curriculum alignment throughout. And then an opportunity to build, have specialized elementary schools that have a specific purpose, like a STEM elementary school or a fine arts elementary school,
yes.
or you name leadership theme. So to be able to build that kind of school is exciting. So there's a lot of benefit to that.
Tell me that STEM and fine art schools. Like I didn't even know that was in the
didn't know
works.
that could be a possibility.
Well, they're ideas, right?
Yeah.
So, we shouldn't, and you don't. All right, we have great music programs throughout our elementary
Yes.
schools, and I may not know everything, but I do know that we can build specialized elementary schools for a purpose, and STEM is an idea, right? And we already have a STEM program in our district. Well, what about backing that up to K-5 and then feeding through our system with an emphasis on STEM for one of our elementary schools? And then fine arts. So they're just ideas. It's not like they're not like they're imminent. But we are pursuing resources to help us with planning and design. And if we get some of those, then that would, obviously help with the process. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
This was the first episode of The Scoop. We hope to have more questions,
many
more.
Okay.
So thank you so much. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time.
Bye. Thank you.